Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. Well, before I start this video, I just wanted to say that I wanted to try something different here with my channel and my platform here. If you guys know me, I tend to I tend to report on the latest news on boxing and give my opinions on matchups and and so forth, whatnot, and correlate a little bit of boxing history into it. I haven't been doing that as of late because I've been so caught up with the latest skirmishes and the hoopla in the world of boxing, whatnot. And I gotta give a shout out to a couple guys, Hatman Strikes Back and B Marsh. And Hatman recently done a fantasy matchup between Riddick Bowe and Mike Tyson, which is a very good video, by the way, and I agree with everything he said in that video. And I know he has done fantasy matchups in prior videos last year or two. So and B Marsh on the other hand, if you look at his channel, you haven't checked it out, please go comment, share, subscribe there. He actually has a segment on his channel where he introduced fights that us fans didn't get to see that we would have want to see, and he does provide some very good information in those videos as well. So please check out his videos; they're very good videos and has good content on them. His latest video he did was Oscar De La Hoya versus Casa Tzu, and B Marsh, man, you beat me to it. Because of my latest conversations with the librarian, I was going to introduce a video breakdown on that, because what people don't realize is that fight actually was supposed to go down. There was supposed to be some preliminary discussions between the Tszyu camp and the De La Hoya camp to get that fight made. Even though Oscar De La Hoya moved up in weight while Tszyu stayed at 140, there was still talks about potentially making that fight made down the road. But I'll get to that in another video. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and introduce a new segment where there were fights that are scheduled. They were going to be made. They were going to be ready to go, but for some reason they never happened. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce that and correlate what B Marsh puts on his videos, where as far as breaking it down from a fantasy matchup, the same thing with Hatman. So I have to give a shout out to both of those guys because they inspired me to do this, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce that on my channel in the coming days. So, which also inspired me to do this video. However, this video was long overdue because a couple guys have asked me to do this, and I've been holding back on it for a while. So now it's the time. So right here, as you see these two men here, you have Gerald G-Man McClellan, and you have Gennady Triple G Golovkin. So this is actually a hypothetical fantasy matchup between the two guys in their prime. Now, I'm going to break it down stylistically. I'm going to break it down from their attributes and their history, a little bit of history amongst the men. They don't have a history together, but, I'm looking at the other perspective history here. But anyhow, I'm going to break everything down, and I'm going to give you my assessment on who would win this fight from a hypothetical standpoint. Now, let's start with Gerald G-Man McClellan. Now, we all know Gerald McClellan was one of the most feared fighters in his time. Okay, in the 90s, I should say. In the middleweight division, there were several guys who didn't want to fight him. Most famously, there was guys like James Toney and Roy Jones Jr. Now, Roy Jones Jr., Gerald McClellan, if people don't know this, Gerald McClellan actually beat Roy Jones Jr. in the Golden Gloves in the amateur days. Okay, and there was an urban legend in sparring when the two had a sparring session together. Gerald McClellan always got the best of Roy Jones. In fact, in one of those sparring sessions, he knocked out Roy Jones. That's the urban legend. Don't quote me on that, guys. This is what I heard. Okay? Now, if anyone has any more information about that, if anyone can actually bring that to light, please let me know in the comment section. Okay? So, that's what I heard. And as far as James Toney is concerned, there is one tape that surfaced on YouTube, and it's still there. You can take a look at it. It was in 1990 where James Toney was having a ferocious sparring session with Gerald McClellan. It was very heated. In fact, prior to that, they both had heated sparring sessions at the Krung Gym. And in this particular sparring session, Gerald McClellan was giving James Toney so much that he could handle. But let alone, James Toney was holding his own. got to give him credit there because he was giving Gerald McClellan some of the business as well. But if you look at that tape closely, I have to give it to Gerald McClellan because he was really putting a lot on his shots, and he was giving James Toney so much that he could handle. And that will probably explain why James Toney wasn't keen on fighting him. Because James Toney was calling out, as I recall, he was calling out a lot of people after he won that IBF title from Michael Nunn. But he didn't call out Gerald McClellan for some odd reason. He never wanted to call out that guy. So if you put this in a broader perspective, I would say that both both Tony and Roy Jones want no part of him. And that would also explain why Roy Jones, when he won the IBF title in 93, after James Toney moved up to 168 to fight Iran Barkley, he only had less than a few title defenses, and he quickly moved up in weight as soon as Gerald McClellan was rising. So, and that would explain Jones' situation, his motives. In fact, that Roy Jones wasn't even a big super middleweight when he moved up. So that's another argument there. Gerald McClellan, skill set wise, was very good on it. He had very good feet, good footwork, very fast on his feet, very fast combination puncher, and he had power in both of his hands, and he could throw his power shots in various different angles. Kind of like Ricardo Mayorga, but the difference is Ricardo Mayorga was not a very good technical fighter. Okay. Now the thing about McClellan is that what made him so scary is that not only that he had power in both his hands, he could actually knock you out with one hand. He was a very cold killing knockout artist. Now his knockout ratio is one of the highest in history. I think he has a 92% knockout ratio, even though his career was cutting short. Golovkin on the other hand, I think he's 91 or 90%. They're roughly the same. So yeah. So the thing about McClellan is that he could fight you in a distance. And the only way you could try to beat him is to try to get inside. But that was very difficult to do because he was very quick with his jab. And the thing about Gerald McClellan is that he threw a lot of power in those jabs too. Now, if you don't believe me, ask Nigel Benn. Because Nigel Benn even said that himself after their fight. So, yeah. Now, as far as Gennady Golovkin is concerned, we know he's a forward pressure fighter. He fights very flat-footed. He could cut the ring off on you, and he could throw ferocious body shots. Now, the thing about Golovkin is that he tends to keep himself wide open. All right, we saw that perfectly displayed in the Willie Monroe fight, and we saw that in the Curtis Stevens fight. Now, in the Curtis Stevens fight, there was times when Curtis Stevens was gaining success by counter-punching Golovkin whenever he came inside. And when Curtis Stevens hit Golovkin, he actually pushed Golovkin back to some degree in that fight. Now, imagine if that was Gerald McClellan doing that. Oh, boy, that's a different story. Now, Willie Monroe, when he fought Golovkin in the inside, he had some success as well, in the 5th round particularly. Because he hit Golovkin with 8 different shots, straight shots. And, of course, Golovkin took him very well. He said, come on, hit me again, right? And when Golovkin did that, all the Triple G fanatics was like, oh, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. I've never seen anything done like that before. When they say something like that, that clearly shows that they're not really boxing fans, because many guys who've taken shots like that before who hit much harder than Willie Monroe, okay? Mike Tyson was to take shots like that from Razor Ruddock. I remember in the first fight when Tyson invited Razor Ruddock to get him cleanly, and Tyson took it very well. We all know Razor Ruddock was a cold killing knockout artist himself. So when Tyson was invited Ruddock to do that, that's very, very impressive. But then again, I thought that was very stupid for him to take that, because I don't think Tyson was able to allow him to hit him that cleanly all the time in that fight. But it is what it is. So, but the thing is, though, is that when Golovkin invited Monroe to hit him like that, a lot of people said that Golovkin wasn't hurt. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't hurt. He allowed him to hit him like that because he wanted to make it a good fight. Well, I don't believe that, because first things first, after the 5th round had concluded, Golovkin went to his corner and he was breathing very hard. Now, when a fighter is taking shots like that, that's an indication that they were hurt from that. So after the 6th round started, Golovkin really, he actually prompted to get Monroe out of there. So he actually fought with a little bit more urgency, because he didn't want to put himself in that situation of allowing Monroe to get inside and hit him cleanly like that again. So that would explain that situation. Now, but to be fair though, Gerald McClellan wasn't very good defensively as well either, because there were several times that he was leaving himself wide open, getting hit with clean shots, particularly in the fight against Julian Jackson, and of course with Nigel Benn. Now, all right, to me, we all know that Julian Jackson was a far, far dangerous puncher and hitter. He hit much harder than Nigel Benn and Gennady Golovkin. And McClellan was able to take those shots. If McClellan was able to take those shots from Julian Jackson, believe me, Gennady Golovkin will not be able to knock out Gerald McClellan. I don't see it happening whatsoever. Now, with that being said, if I have to break this down stylistically, if these two were actually fought in their prime, hypothetically, if I have to give the edge to someone, I have to give it to Gerald McClellan. Yes, I'm going to get a lot of hateful comments saying this, and the reason why I say that is because I haven't seen Gennady Golovkin in the ring with anyone who had a long reach, who had power in both hands, who can hit you with one punch, who can knock you out with one punch, and who can hit you in all different angles with power. I haven't seen Gennady Golovkin in the ring with a guy like Gerald McClellan. And believe me, and McClellan had height and size as well. So Gennady will be giving up a lot if he had to fight Gerald McClellan. Now, to be honest with you, I don't think... excuse me. My bad, y'all. I thought I was going to see an accident right here. But anyways, where was I? Oh, yeah. I don't think Golovkin or his team would even take a fight with a guy like Gerald McClellan, to be honest with you, given their recent behavior or how they're approaching fights as of late. But I just don't see Golovkin be able to withstand the power and the speed and the jab from Gerald McClellan. I just can't see it. Now, the only way Golovkin would stand a chance of winning this fight against McClellan is try to get inside and try to break him down. But again, Julian Jackson tried that and didn't work. Okay, and Julian Jackson hits much harder than Gennady Golovkin, and he himself was a pressure fighter, a relentless pressure fighter. So, yeah, man, I don't see Gennady Golovkin winning this fight against McClellan. No way at all. I just can't see it. Then again, it's my opinion. But if you want to go ahead and share your thoughts on this, please, gladly share your comments. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. But please be respectful about it, okay? But again, do you see the fight differently? Do you think Gennady Golovkin beat Gillin, or do you agree with my assessment on Gerald McClellan beating Gennady Golovkin? Let me know what your thoughts are. Care to comment, share, subscribe, signing off. Peace.